Welcome to the Leaderish Podcast, leadership lessons straight up, with your hosts, Dr. Jen and Regina. Hey, Jen, how's it going?
Hi, Regina. It's wonderful. Would you like to know why?
Yes.
I received a card in the mail today from a very close friend of mine's sister, who I'm also friends with. I have not mentioned the podcast to her at all. I haven't even talked to her in a while, but she took it upon herself to send me a card with how much she loves the podcast and her congratulations, and that she has listened to, I think, the first episode twice, just like the person you talked about on the last episode. So
Wow.
it's just wonderful. It's crazy, and I'm in awe. How are you doing?
I am doing so well. There are two things that I wanted to share with you. Um, One is that, and really I want to share it with everybody, is that you sent me a book called She Inspires, and it absolutely probably made my week. And is it okay if I read the inscription?
Absolutely.
Okay. And so you wrote in this book, it says, to my co-host and dear friend, cheers to this incredible journey we are on. We have put something wonderful in the world that was not there before. Love, Jen.
I love it so much. And the story about the quote. So on the back of the book,
Uh-huh. Do you want me to
there
read
is,
it?
yes, read the
Yeah.
quote and then I'll just
Okay.
kind of tell you.
Yeah. And so the quote is, you put something wonderful in the world that was not there before. Edwin Elliot.
So when I took the book out of the Target package, it is available at Target and it is wonderful. There was a sticker, a Target sticker over the U, and you put something wonderful into the world that was not there before.
Mm-hmm.
But I read it as put something wonderful into the world that was not there before, as in take action, go put something wonderful into the world that wasn't there before. And I actually like it better because it's so what we feel like we're trying to do.
Yes. That is our mission, is to put something wonderful into the world, to empower women, especially empower women with leadership and confidence to lead.
And I think we can take images of the book, of the quotes in the book, and we can share them on our social media because it's so in line with who we're trying to be and what we're trying to do. So I'm so glad you love it.
Absolutely. I have one more thing I want to share.
Yes.
So I know that you try not to read the reviews because you like to wait for me
So true.
to share them. So we have another one, another 5-star review that's titled Dive Right In. And it's,
I
I know,
already love
right?
it.
I know. It says, I've been looking forward to this podcast for weeks, and I'm so glad it's here. In just 3 episodes, I've laughed out loud and learned so much. These ladies bring up topics that are helpful reminders as well as motivation to improve in the workplace and life in general. Can't wait for more lessons and laughs from Jen and Regina and Bella.
I love that. The dogs are a part of the show for sure. So I love that people
Yeah.
appreciate that. And again, I think what amazes me about some of the reviews we're getting is it's what we're trying to do. It aligns with what we're trying to do, is how people are feeling about it. And that just feels really good and amazing.
Agreed.
All right. So now it's time for my favorite segment, the drink of the day. Regina, what do you have today?
Well, today I am focusing on my water intake again. I go back and forth, as you know. Um,
Boring.
I know, but it's important.
I'm kidding. I'm here to support you in your water intake.
Thank you. What are you drinking, Jen?
Well, true to form, it's not water. Although I do have a giant water bottle beside me that I'm trying to drink all of every day. But I have on a t-shirt that has, if you can see it, Regina, a long list of different types of wine.
Oh,
And to go along with it, I have a glass of Pinot Noir, which once
mm,
again, Tom Purdom procured for me. And it is called Sunny with a Chance of Flowers, which is so perfect for spring. So that is what I am drinking today.
I love it. And does it taste good?
It's really good.
Oh, good. Okay. It's always important. I mean, because sometimes the bottles are crazy deceiving and you're like, oh my gosh, I have a bottle of vinegar.
You have to
So
have the cute name and it has to taste good.
that's right.
That's a winning combination.
Indeed. Indeed. Well, I am super excited about today's episode
Me too.
because our listeners asked for this episode.
We have listeners and they asked for something.
By God, you guys, we are here to honor your requests. That is the whole reason we are here. We are not here for us. And so one of the yous has asked us to put together a episode on our favorite assessments. We've talked about them like a little bit here and there. And today we are here for you to discuss MBTI.
And what I'll say from from my background in psychology is there is a term called psychometrics. And that is all about the validity, the reliability of assessments from a scientific and statistical point of view. The three that we have chosen, I'll talk a little bit about that, but we are really sharing our own opinions and
Yes.
our own experiences in using them and how to use them.
So I think what you're saying is that it is up to our listeners to decide if these are the right things for them.
Exactly. Perfectly
Yeah.
said.
Thanks.
All right. So let's talk about MBTI or the
Mhm.
Myers-Briggs type indicator. Regina, you are certified in this.
Mhm.
You have a lot of experience with it. I have taken it actually twice, about 15 years apart. And in my just kind of overall research, just getting familiar with it for this episode, I saw that 50 million people have taken the MBTI. It's been around about 60 years. And from a psychometric standpoint, it's one of the most renowned. And because of that, most tested. And so
Mhm.
very reliable, very valid. But that's not what we care about today. I
Right.
want to know about your experience using it.
All of those things that you say are true. When I had to get certified, it's an intense certification. We did go over the reliability and the validity, and I was blown away by the data that supports the Myers-Briggs type indicator. Now, what I love about it is it's not a skills test. It's a personality test. And so
Yes.
it doesn't measure if you're going to be successful in a role or doing something. What this really does is it helps you understand your personality and why you think the way that you do. And so that's measured on 4 pairs of opposites. And the first opposite is around introversion and extroversion. And you probably, or people out there probably use that term extrovert as someone who's like really talkative, but that's not really what they mean when they say extrovert. They really are talking about how you get your energy. Do you get it from other people? Or if you're an introvert, you actually get it from being alone. And that's how you kind of recharge your batteries.
I was just going to ask if that's how you recharge.
Now, I happen to be an extrovert. So, like, if I'm feeling down or I'm exhausted, I want to be around people and that like completely lifts me up. If you're an introvert, then you want to go and sit in your room or your office or a quiet space for a while. And maybe it's only 2 to 3 minutes or 5 minutes, but that's what you need to do to recharge your batteries and get that burst of energy.
So interestingly, I just said I took it years apart. When I took it as a 20-year-old, I was an INTJ. So I scored on the introversion side of that
Mm-hmm.
spectrum, which everyone's always surprised about. I took it 15 years later when I was getting my doctorate, and I was an ENTJ.
Mm-hmm.
So I switched. The only thing that changed was from introversion to
Mm-hmm.
extroversion. Could we assume that I must be somewhere in the middle on that one?
Well, we could assume that. We also could assume that there were expectations put upon you at that time in your life where you were forced to really build your extroversion skills. In fact, I was talking to a gentleman yesterday and coaching him, and his assessment actually said extroversion, but when we went through what extroversion means and what introversion means, he's like, I think I need to change. Like, I'm actually an introvert. And I said, well, does your job require you to speak up in meetings, to be very friendly around people, and to enjoy like group dynamics and group discussions? And he's like, absolutely. He goes, but I'm exhausted after my day of that. And I said, now, as an extrovert, you would say, and I'm energized by that.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I would say for myself, I love being around people. I aspire to be the life of every party. Yes, all of that. But when I'm exhausted, I need time to myself.
It's not an either or world. Just because there are a pair of opposites, Jen, doesn't mean that you are always one of them. There are a pair of opposites, but you use both every day, all day long. As an extrovert, I know that there are times where I need to step back and be alone and recharge without people around.
But it's what's most consistent for you.
It is what is ingrained in you, that we are all born with that, and an innate set of traits. Now, those do kind of change based on nurture and our nature and our nurture, but we are who we are when we're born, and that's what comes easiest to us. That doesn't mean we can't do the exact opposite and we don't do it all the time. One of the things that I like to do is to have people send a text message with their dominant hand. And like, if you think about just sending a text message, it's super easy with one hand if you're using your dominant hand. And then I ask them to switch. And when they switch hands and they use their non-dominant hand, it's kind of hard to do that. They can do it.
That makes sense.
They can do it. And if they broke their right hand, they get really darn good at text messaging with their left hand if their right was their dominant. Yeah. So I say that to say, even though we're talking about 4 different sets of opposite pairs, you do both sets or both opposites all the time. You have one that you prefer and you still use the other one very regularly.
It's just what comes naturally
Mm-hmm.
to you. And back to what you said about traits, many of these personality tests are based in personality
Yep.
theory in psychology. And it's just assessing different variants of that. So, what are the next set of opposites?
Yeah. So the next set of opposite is sensing and intuition. And this is how you take in information. So remember, we talked about introversion and extroversion. That's how you get energy. Okay. Now we talk about how do you take in information. If you prefer sensing, then you focus on like what is real, like what you can see, hear, feel, touch. That's why it's sensing, because you use your senses. If you prefer intuition, you like to look at patterns and meaning. So you like to look beyond the facts that are in front of you. You like to look at possibilities. And so those are those 2 opposites. But again, it's not like you can only do one. You do both all the time. But where do you start? Which one's dominant?
That makes sense. And for me, N is, and for you as well, because I know
Mm-hmm.
this about you, it's definitely on the N scale, on that intuition. And when I got these results back when I was 20, I thought, oh, I don't have any intuition. Now I completely agree with that. Again, I got
Yeah.
that same result, 15 years later, and I completely agree with it. So it's interesting how sometimes the assessment can pull out your natural traits, even
Mm-hmm.
as a young person, more so than you even realize yet.
Right.
What are the next set of opposites?
Yeah. Okay. So we've talked about how we get energy. Then we talked about how we take in information. Now we have all this information in our brain. We need to talk about how we make a decision with that information. And so we make decisions that are based on thinking or feeling, or of course, both, but you either have a preference for thinking or feeling. Thinking, think about like analytical, objective, very reasoning and logical. Feeling, people who prefer feeling empathize. They're guided by personal and social values. They think about the impact of everything they do on people.
Interesting. So for you and I, both as ENTJs, which I don't think
Mhm.
anybody would be surprised that we have the exact same.
Right.
MBTI. Um, thinking is, I don't know that I would have said that about myself because I care so much about the relationship aspect.
Mm-hmm.
But if I think about the way I make decisions, which is what you just said it's about, definitely. The interesting component is the intuition and the thinking together, because you would think that those are maybe not compatible,
Yeah.
but I
Yeah.
guess they
And
are.
they totally are. And I struggled with that too. I'm like, well, I must be sensing. I must be like all about the data and the facts and what I can see and feel and touch if I prefer thinking. But that's not the case at all. I love the possibilities, but I analyze those possibilities. So I'm thinking through a lot of possibilities to make a decision.
That makes complete sense. And also, maybe for me, I'm trying to validate my intuition.
Mm.
I have an intuition about X, but can I think through and validate, maybe with data or whatever, what my intuition is telling me? So that's how I
Do,
think of it.
yeah, but do you think that maybe you're using the word intuition in a way that is different what MBTI wants you to use it?
Maybe. Please tell me
Because
more. I can be
well,
wrong.
I think that you might be using the word intuition to be more like your gut feeling.
Yes, that's how I've always thought of it. I must be wrong.
So I think intuition is more because remember, intuition is about taking in information. So when you are posed with information, you look at patterns and meaning, you trust inspiration, you typically move very quickly to decisions.
Yes.
And you want to clarify ideas and theories before you put them into practice. On the flip side, like if you think about theories and ideas, you want to clarify because you prefer intuition. If you preferred sensing, you would want to make sure that you thoroughly understood that idea and its practical application.
Got it. Got it. You may have just clarified something for a lot of people when you think about the word intuition outside of the context of MBTI. You think gut instinct. And
Right.
so it's really taking in information. That's super helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. That was a struggle for me too. With the thinking and feeling, I didn't have like that came easy because I think that the MBTI uses the words thinking and feeling kind of how we use them anyway
Yes.
every day. That the fourth set of opposites is how we approach the outside world. And those two opposites are called judging and perceiving. Now, the other misconception is when you think judgy, you're like, oh, she's so judgy. Look, she's
Exactly.
judging
You
me.
don't want to
Or,
have the J, but we both have the J.
yeah, don't judge me. That's not what judging is as at all when you're talking about Myers-Briggs. And when you talk about perceiving, you immediately think about, oh, I have this perception
Yep.
that that girl is all hoity-toity, or I have this perception that she's an amazing leader. But that's not what perceiving means either. So we get
Interesting.
confused. So let me explain the judging and the perceiving. So again, this is how you approach the outside world.
Okay.
Judging means that you're very planful, scheduled, systematic,
Yes, yes, yes.
methodical.
Yes. Say
There's
that again.
nothing, yeah, scheduled, systematic, planful, I think I said, methodical. You like lists. Sometimes you have lists for your lists.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so the word judging to me doesn't actually connect to those series of words
Agree
that,
completely. So that's really
yes,
helpful.
yes. So take the word judging out and just think about that. Are you planful, scheduled, systematic, methodical? Do you make lists, right? That's what the J is. The P is spontaneous and flexible and casual and open ended, very adaptable to change. Like that doesn't
I'm
even connect to the word perceiving to
I'm
me.
laughing because I have J and Tom has P. And if
Oh,
you know us, you would definitely flip those. That's hilarious, actually. But in some instances, I can totally see it. It's so funny.
Hmm. Yeah. So if you are scheduled and planful, you probably are a little bit more on the J side. If you are spontaneous and flexible, you're more on the P side. But here's what I need you to hear though. Just because you're a J, because you are, doesn't mean you can't be flexible and spontaneous. You do
Right.
it all the time.
But I have planned to be spontaneous. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I love it. So these four pairs of opposites come together to give you your personality, and there are 16 different types of personality based on those four pairs of opposites. And it really helps you understand yourself, but also understand the people that are around you. It could be your significant other, it could be your team, peers, your boss, your leader, whatever. It really helps you understand how other people think and what their natural preference is so you can meet them where they are.
So I
Can I
want to know from you, how has knowing your type indicator, your MBTI, what has that done for you personally?
I would have said 10 years ago when I started working with my mentor, I had almost zero empathy. In fact, I had taken another assessment, an emotional intelligence assessment of some type, and my empathy was crazy low.
That's shocking to
Um,
me.
well, thank you. That is a compliment to me because once I got to know my MBTI and I realized I'm very much a thinker and I'm very much a judger, right? No, judger is not the right word, but I prefer judging. So I like that planned and scheduled. What I started to do was leverage my own MBTI to develop empathy and to develop my feeling, develop that F, because I really had very little of it for many years.
We've talked assessments many times before. Never
Mhm.
did I know this about you because you are one of the most feeling and empathetic people I know. I've been the beneficiary of that many times. And so it's very interesting to me that you have worked really hard to hone that because it seems like just who you are.
I am pretty sure that when I started out managing restaurants when I was 22 years old, that none of those people would have said that I had empathy.
Wow. So
Mhm.
you actually used MBTI to develop something you feel like you didn't have and
Correct.
was validated to you at the time.
Yes. And I used my strengths. I used my personality type to do that. I used my preference for judging to be very planful, to be methodical about how I empathize and when to empathize and when to use feeling to make decisions.
Got it. So now you've obviously worked with teams and leaders with MBTI as well. So how have you seen that really help a team or a leader or just a woman in the workplace? What's the benefit of MBTI?
I did a debrief today with a group of leaders, and one of the women that I debriefed, we were talking about some activities that they can do with their team because they all have their their preferences. And she said we were talking about an activity and she goes, well, one of my team members like won't ever have a chance to talk because of everybody else. And I was like, because he prefers introversion, and he's sensing, so he's taking everything in and then he's thinking about it for a while, right? And then he's perceiving, so he's very flexible about what happens afterwards. And she's like, now I know that I have to be the one to stop the conversation to make sure that he can add value, because he's not going to just jump in, but he has tons of value to add.
That's fantastic. And that's such an important dynamic for teams to understand. And
Mm-hmm.
even as you were describing that, that's such a different experience than I have because I'm probably one of the people you have to shut up so that
Mm-hmm.
someone else can talk. But it's interesting just for me to be in a group of people, even on Zoom, and realize, hey, there's someone in the meeting that may be having that experience and maybe I can pause and ask for their feedback because maybe they have a
Mm-hmm.
very different experience because they're sensing and bringing it all in.
That's right.
So interesting. So, Regina, you've given us a ton of information. What's one thing that our listeners can do with MBTI in the next 24 hours or the next week?
If you have the means to spend the $50 on MBT online, for $50, you get your personality report. You'll find out your 4 pairs of opposites that make up your personality preference. I would do that if you have the means to do it. You also get a course that you have a lifetime access to that will help you understand MBTI better. And if you have even more means than that and you really want to dig in, there are tons of MBTI certified coaches out there that you can reach out to who can administer your report, give you a very lengthy report, and then coach you on that to help you, like how I had to grow in feeling because I was negative feeling, can coach you and help you grow in a certain area if that's something that you're interested in. So MBTI goes from $50 all the way to you could spend thousands and thousands with a coach if you were interested in that. And there are some free MBTI assessments out there. I'm not sure I would trust them quite as much. I know that when I take them, I don't actually get my best fit type. So
Interesting.
yeah, you can try them, but I think that they're guessing for the most part, and it doesn't always match up. And I've had many people tell me that what they get from MBTI from the Myers-Briggs company doesn't match the free assessments out there. So it's the most costly of what we'll talk about in this series of assessments. But if it is something that interests you and you want to kind of go deep into your personality, MBTI is a great tool to do that.
Yeah, and just search Myers-Briggs online and it'll take you straight to their site. And you may already have someone or a resource at your organization, like Regina, who is certified.
Yeah,
And so you may have resources at your organization already.
that's right.
But it is one of the most world-renowned personality assessments. So that's why, and one of our favorites. So that's one of the reasons why we chose to review it. Hope it's been helpful.
Yeah. So good. So, Jen, what have you been doing since the last time we spoke to fill your cup?
Well, I'm going to steal your thunder because you probably know what I'm going to say, and I know what you're going to say because we actually got the opportunity to have lunch together this week.
It's been a year,
And yes, we saw each other for the first time in a year.
face to
And
face, not on video
yes, we see each other all the time on video.
all the time.
But seeing each other in person was wonderful, and it was a wonderful surprise. You came here and we walked to the farmer's market and had lunch and then took a little walk outside, and it was beautiful out and it was just wonderful. So that is 100% what filled my cup this week. What about you now that I've stolen it?
Well, you stole my thunder, but I'm going to add to the thunder because then I got to go up and spend a little time on your happy place with your new plants,
That is very
um,
true.
which is so lovely. And I got to snuggle with Bear and Bella. So all of those things were just amazing to me, Jen. And our walk through the Bicentennial Mall in downtown Nashville. And how freaking cool are you that you like live downtown? You are so cool. I'm like totally burbed out.
That
And
is
you are so BA.
so
Wow.
funny. I love that so much. That made me laugh so hard that my earbuds fell out. But it was a really great day. Thank you for coming to visit me. You know,
Oh, it was the
my urban
best.
life. It was wonderful.
Yes. Oh, it was the best. It was a perfect day to us. Jen, tell us how our listeners can find us.
You can find us via email at leaderishpodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on Instagram at Leaderish Podcast, on Facebook at Leaderish Podcast. Please reach out to us. We want to hear from you. As you can hear in the beginning of the episodes, we love it when you reach out to us. No matter how you reach out to us, it means a lot to us, keeps us going. And you know what? Cheers to an in-person lunch and a walk around the park in my urban life.
Cheers.